Hey guys, Miss Erin here. So yesterday we read chapter 3 of Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. So if you haven't listened to that, you want to go ahead and do so you don't get lost. We are going to continue and go ahead and read chapter 4. Where we left off, there was a banging at the door at that secret cabin. So we're going to find out what happens. Okay. Chapter 4, The Keeper of the Keys. Boom. They knocked again. Dudley jerked awake. "Where's the cannon?" he said stupidly. There was a crash behind them, and Uncle Vernon came skidding into the room. He was holding a rifle in his hands, and now they knew what had been in that long, thin package he brought with them. "Who's there?" he shouted. "I warn you, I'm armed." Then there was a pause, and then smash! The door was hit with such a force that it swung clean off the hinges and with a deafening crash landed on the flat of the floor. A giant man was standing in the doorway. His face was almost completely hidden by a long, shaggy mane of hair and a wild, tangled beard, but you could make out his eyes, glinting like black beetles under all the hair. The giant squeezed his way into the hut, stooping so that his head just brushed the ceiling. He bent down, picked up the door, and fitted it easily back onto its frame. The noise of the storm outside dropped a little. He turned to look at them all. "Couldn't make us a cup of tea, could ya? It ain't been a easy journey." He strode over to the sofa where Dudley sat, frozen with fear. "Budge up, you great lump," said the stranger. Dudley squeaked and ran to hide behind his mother, who was crouching, terrified, behind Uncle Vernon. And here's Harry," said the giant. Harry looked up into the fierce, wild, shadowy figure and saw that the beetle eyes were crinkled in a smile. "Last time I saw you, you was only a baby," said the giant. "You look like your dad, but you got your mom's eyes." Uncle Vernon made a funny, rasping noise. "I demand you leave here at once, sir. You are breaking and entering." "Shut up, Dursley, you great prune," said the giant. He reached over the back of the sofa, jerked the gun out of Uncle Vernon's hand, and bent it into a knot as easily as if it had been made out of rubber, and threw it into the corner of the room. Uncle Vernon made another funny noise, like a mouse being trodden on. "Anyway, Harry," said the giant, turning his back on the Dursleys, "a very happy birthday to you. Got something for you here. I might have sat on it at some point, but it will taste all right." From inside the pocket of his black overcoat, he pulled a slightly squashed box. Harry opened it with trembling fingers. Inside was a large, sticky chocolate cake with "Happy Birthday, Harry" written on it with green icing. Harry looked up at the giant. He meant to say "thank you," but the words got lost on the way to his mouth, and what he said instead was, "Who are you?" The giant chuckled. "True, I haven't introduced myself. I'm Rubius Hagrid, keeper of the keys and grounds at Hogwarts." And here we go. Here's the picture of them. He held out an enormous hand and shook Harry's whole arm. "What about that tea, then?" he said. "I didn't say no to something stronger if you got the mind." His eyes fell on an empty grate with a shriveled crisp packets in it, and he snorted. He bent down over the fireplace. They couldn't see what he was doing, but he drew back a second later, and there was a roaring fire. It filled the whole damp hut with flickering light, and Harry felt the warmth wash over him as though he'd sunk into a hot bath. The giant sat back down on the sofa, which sagged under his weight, and began taking all sorts of strange things out of his pockets. A copper kettle, a squashy package of sausages, a poker, a teapot, several chipped mugs, and a bottle of some amber liquid, which he took a swig from before starting to make some tea. Soon the hut was full of the sound and smell of sizzling sausage. Nobody said a thing while the giant was working. But as he slid the first 6 fat, juicy, slightly burnt sausages from the poker, Dudley fidgeted a little bit. Uncle Vernon said sharply, "Don't you touch anything he gives you, Dudley." The giant chuckled darkly. "You great puddin' of a son don't need any fattening any more, Dursley. Don't worry." He passed the sausages to Harry, who was so hungry he'd never tasted anything so wonderful, but he still couldn't take his eyes off the giant. Finally, as nobody seemed to explain anything, he said, "I'm sorry, I just don't really know who you are." The giant took a gulp of tea and wiped his mouth with the back of his hands. "You can call me Hagrid," he said. "Everyone does. And like I told you, I'm the keeper of the keys at Hogwarts. You know all about Hogwarts, of course." No," said Harry. Hagrid looked shocked. "Sorry," Harry said quickly. "Sorry?" barked Hagrid, turning to stare at the Dursleys, who shrank back into the shadows. "It's them that should be sorry. I knew you weren't getting your letters, but I never thought you wouldn't even know about Hogwarts, for crying out loud. Did you never wonder where your parents learnt it all?" "All what?" asked Harry. "All what? Now wait just a second." He leapt up to his feet. In anger, he seemed to fill the whole hut. The Dursleys were cowering against the wall. "Do you mean to tell me," he growled at the Dursleys, "that this boy knows nothing about anything?" Harry thought this was going a bit too far. I mean, he had been to school after all, and his marks weren't so bad. "I do know some things," he said. I can, do math and stuff." But Hagrid simply waved his hand and said, "About our world, I mean. Your world, my world, your parents' world." "What world?" Hagrid looked as if he were about to explode. "Dursley," he boomed. Uncle Vernon, who had grown very pale, whispered something that sounded like Mimble-Wimble. Hagrid stared wildly at Harry. "But you must know about your mom and dad," he said. "I mean, they're famous. You're famous." "What? My dad weren't famous, were they?" You don't know. Hagrid ran his fingers through his hair, fixing Harry with a wild stare. "You don't know what you are," he said finally. Uncle Vernon suddenly found his voice. "Stop," he commanded. "Stop right there. I forbid you to tell the boy anything." A braver man than Vernon Dursley would have quailed under the furious look Hagrid now gave him. When Hagrid spoke, every syllable trembled with rage. "You never told him? You never told him what was in the letter Dumbledore left for him? I was there. I saw Dumbledore leave it, Dursley, and you kept it from him all these years." "Kept what from me?" asked Harry eagerly. "Stop! I forbid you!" yelled Uncle Vernon in a panic. Aunt Petunia gave a gasp of horror. "Go boil your heads, both of you," said Hagrid. "Harry, you're a wizard." We will stop there and continue for part 2.